Let's freaking go. So this is going to be interesting. Our football coach, Mr. Lane Kiffin, wants the biggest game on your schedule to be even harder than it already is, because he wants Trinidad Chambliss to be able to play, according to pretty much all his actions on Twitter. I also want Trinidad Chambliss to play, and I'll tell you why. But first, big shout out to Lacey Dex Productions with the brand new intro, PHL Nation. I'm going to be open with you. It's been a tough couple of weeks for your boy, and all of your support. It's just so important to me. Now, got a fun baseball guest coming up. We'll talk about Jay Johnson and how this team is falling apart at its seams, pun intended. But go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, comment below after this live stream is over. It goes a long way with the algorithm. So the NCAA pretty much came out today and said, look, we're tired of all these shenanigans. We are going to fight back when it comes to all of this mumbo jumbo regarding Trinidad Chambliss. So we thought that this story was over a few weeks ago, and Chambliss, according to that Mississippi judge, who, by the way, was also an Ole Miss fan, which is not lost on me, the NCAA is appealing the Trinidad Chambliss preliminary injunction, which granted him eligibility for the 2026 season. In a 658-page filing to the Mississippi State Supreme Court today, the NCAA is asking the court to overrule the injunction and expedite the ruling. Okay. Tom Mars. If you have followed college football for a very long time, you know who Mr. Tom Mars is. He has always had his tentacles in the sport when it comes to legal matters. One of Chambliss's attorneys is Tom Mars, and he said to ESPN, everyone remembers when the NCAA famously appealed to the Supreme Court in the Alston case and got their teeth knocked out by Justice Kavanaugh. I expect the NCAA to be spitting chiclets in this appeal as well. So here's the thing. You might not be a legal superstar. I am not a legal superstar. I don't know a whole lot about legalities and, fighting for eligibility and all of that. You guys know my stance on how things should be moving forward. You get 5 years to play 5. That's it. You can play as many games as you want as your redshirt true freshman season, okay? That would be the simplest solution to a very complex problem like we have right now. You obviously don't hurt guys like a Jack Pyburn or a Mansour Delane or someone like that who was really good as a true freshman or was involved as a true freshman. You are obviously hurting greatness by doing that. You're rewarding mediocrity by players who aren't good enough to play more than 4 games in their freshman season or any season. But I am of the belief that as a college football fan, 5-5 would fix a lot of this. All right. But the truth is, Trinidad Chambliss, based on what I saw, to me, and the redshirt-ish type of ruling back at Ferris State, was it a medical year or not? I do believe he should be eligible. Now, here's my belief on how you should feel about it as an LSU fan. I am not an end results person. I choose to not live my life based on end results. I want to, as a human, play with your best hand forward. Now, I understand not all of you feel that way. A lot of you believe that college football is a sport where you just got to find a way to win and no one really cares how you win. But you guys know my stance on this. This is why I'm 9 games over 8. Who cares what the Big Ten does? I want the SEC to be the best it possibly can be, and I think a 9-game conference schedule makes the SEC that much better of a product for all of us. I also believe that I want to play what you are ready to give me as your best hand. All right? LSU is already walking into next season with pocket kings. I'm not going to give us pocket aces. That would be 2019 LSU good. And obviously, these are Texas Hold'em references. I don't even know if our pocket kings good. But we're walking in with pocket queens. If the Ole Miss Rebels don't have Trinidad Chambliss next year. They go from like pocket 10s to basically 5-6 suited. Sure, you've got pieces, suited connectors, if you will. If things do go your way, if the flop is good enough for you, you can have a good drawing hand. But I don't want you to play me with 5-6 suited. I want you to play with whatever you think your best hand is. And I do think with Chambliss being, to me, the best quarterback in the SEC coming back next year, they go from 5-6 suited to pocket 10s, pocket jacks, somewhere in that middle tier of the better hands that you can have in Texas Hold'em. Okay? So I want Chambliss to be available. Now, with that said, you've already had a few of these rulings go in your favor. And I say a few, you had one go in your favor. When you take a look at the LSU schedule next year, at the end of it, you will not have to play Joey Aguilar of the Tennessee Volunteers. You will not. But I'm telling you right now, this season is going to be very tricky when it comes to opposing quarterbacks. Now, what I want to show you, before we get into the Chambliss discussion, we say hi to one of our many members, YouTube memberships. You already know where to go to sign up. All right, so this was the 2025 schedule, and I understand it's very out there. Let me go ahead and just do the regular 2025 LSU schedule. I know my face is being blocked. Let me see if I move over here. All right. Actually, let's do over here because it makes it a little bit cooler. All right, so you're looking at the schedule right here. And what you'll see is going into this past season, we thought that the quarterbacks that we were going to play were going to be very good. And what happened? Half of the quarterbacks that we faced going into the season that we thought were going to be elite ended up not being elite. Klubnik fell off a cliff. We all know what happened at Florida with the Lagway, who's now with the Baylor. Ole Miss's quarterback wasn't even their quarterback. Sellers far underperformed. Obviously, Pavia was better than what he was. And then, of course, number 10, Marcel Reed, was exactly who we thought he was. But he had the best game of his career versus us. At Alabama, we all know how good Ty Simpson was. Arkansas, Taylon Green was about what we expected him to be. And at Oklahoma, John Mateer was about where we expected him to be. So we go back to this schedule, and if you were to look historically at some of the other seasons that we thought LSU had with some elite quarterbacks on the schedule, about half of them actually live up to their expectation. So I say all of that because going into last year, the quarterbacks that everyone thought were the best ended up not being the best. And going into this next season, Chambliss is considered to be the best. Do I think he's the best? I do. But it's not by much, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that we are overreacting to him being available. But I will say, when it comes to early September or early college football season, middle of September games, there will not be a regular season game in terms of anticipation that will match that of LSU and Ole Miss. That includes Ohio State and Texas last year, and so on and so on. I think it's an even bigger thing that both of these teams will have 3 games under their belt, and obviously we'll be breaking that game down all off season, along with, of course, the Clemson opener. Ole Miss has a little bit of an easier start with Louisville and Charlotte there, and LSU will have Clemson and Louisiana Tech. Okay, next thing. So there's been quite a few discussions about Mississippi as well when it comes to this tax where players, high school athletes, will not be taxed. All right, they will not be taxed their NIL dollars. All right, and I've heard a bunch of really good takes about, do we really want the athletes to be untaxed while all these other hardworking people have to pay their taxes and so on and so on and so on. And My response is very simple. It is without reasonable doubt when you become a professional, which is what college sports are right now, there is no better profession than being a professional athlete. There just isn't. All right. Even if you compare it to other forms of entertainment, such as music, acting, and so on and so on and so on. So, yes, it is a little unfair that these dollars are indeed untaxed. But you see why Mississippi does it, because Mississippi, of course, wants to have a leg up over states that have more fertile recruiting grounds. And I get that. I totally get that. But this is how it's always been with the athletes. This is how it's always been. They have always gotten sweeter deals than you or I. Okay. And this is just another example of that. When an athlete gets hurt, especially in the NBA, they get paid regardless if their contract is indeed guaranteed. And a lot of these NIL deals are guaranteed. One thing that kind of flew under the radar is there was a offensive lineman in the SEC who was very coveted. I thought it was very good. He transferred to South Carolina and he got hurt. He's not going to be able to play next year. And what happened was there was a bunch of discussion about, man, I wonder if the people that paid the money for this kid to come in and play for South Carolina next year, there was a lot of positive vibes going into South Carolina season in 2026 because you got Sellers back. You got Kendall Briles, who I think is a top 10 OC in the sport. You got Nicholas Harbor back. Shane Beamer staying around. And that's an easy sell. If I was a multimillionaire that was supporting South Carolina Gamecock Athletics and Shane Beamer picked up the call and said, hey, we can get a kid in our region to come in and play offensive line for us, why would you not want to pay that to give Sellers some better protection, knowing that South Carolina historically has not had good offensive line play? But if I'm someone that is paying that money, it sucks. All right. It sucks that you paid someone that had no real tie to South Carolina Gamecock athletics. You paid it. In the NFL, it's the owners that pay it, but you paid it. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. Okay. So, it's one of those things where it gets really tricky if you are a college football fan. All right. It's really, really, really tricky. And it's a little bit different if, let's just say, I paid the money and I was an Ole Miss fan. God forbid that ever happened. I was an Ole Miss fan and I paid for Quan Lacey to come back. $3 million, whatever it was. But I'm paying an Ole Miss player to come back to Ole Miss. All right. So it's a different thing. All of that saying is we're all getting screwed by this. We all are getting screwed by this. You in particular got screwed the first couple of years of NIL when there was no revenue sharing and there wasn't the $20 million that was going to the players. So always understand when it comes to anything regarding athlete pay, whether it's college and now with the NFL and the NBA and all of that, it's never going to be fair to you, to the fan. It's just not. So it's better to not think about it. I didn't become a sports fan simply because I care about what an athlete gets. All right. Do I think it is a little ridiculous, in particular NBA salaries? Yes. NBA salaries are probably the wildest thing we have in sports that nobody discusses now. All right. But I try to be a positive NBA fan now. But when it comes to NIL, I love what it's done. I really do. I love what it's done. And I want to share one more story because I've gotten a lot of questions about the Mississippi tax thing. I don't like it because it does spit in the face of so many people that really do have to pay taxes. But I want to share that, athletes, when it comes to pay, it's always been like this. It always has been. Wouldn't you like to be a high school athlete who got a McDonald's bag of $400,000 cash? It's a great world to be in. That's great business. But there's a lot of discussion about what NIL is and what it isn't. I see Pierce in the chat. We'll get to all your comments here in a second. What I would tell you is if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, think about how many kids missed out on this, playing college football in particular. All right. I just did, I'm doing this project called Recruit Wheel, where I literally spin a wheel. It spits out a number. I look at the year and the recruiting ranking, and it's just random. All right. It's a random search into college football history. Don't go look at it unless you're a college football nerd. If you're not a college football nerd, then you probably shouldn't even be watching me right now. All right. And there was a Rutgers running back. Swear to God, don't remember him at all. All right. I want to make sure I get his name correctly. And his name was drafted in the 7th round by the Commanders. You could tell I wasn't going to go on this tangent. Okay. His name is Jawan Jameson. All right. Jawan Jameson. He was a really good running back at Rutgers. All right. He was not an NFL level running back, but he was very good. If you want to go look him up, he was Clyde Edwards-Helaire before Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but Clyde, of course, was better. But their running styles, their play style are literally identical. I was laughing at how similar they were as players. So Jawan Jameson lost his father, and his mother got cancer, and he was at Rutgers. Do you think Rutgers paid Jawan Jameson under the table like SEC schools did during his time period, which was the early 2010s? Hell no. But if NIL was around, he would have been paid 6 figures minimum by Rutgers. And with the cancer diagnosis of his mother, he probably would have been able to go into the transfer portal and get a 7-figure payday from an SEC school or just slightly below that. Instead, he went to the NFL. He didn't have good testing at all. In fact, he had some of the worst testing in NFL Combine history, and he never played it down. He got drafted in the 7th round, and he got cut immediately. And there's plenty of examples like this. The problem is not a lot of us go back and look at that. All right. And don't you think a lot of these athletes are dealing with similar things now? All right. And I've been thinking about Jawan, never talked to him before. It was a total random spin of a wheel that I even learned about his story. And he probably deserved compensation for his ability. All right. Played behind a bad Rutgers offensive line, got his ass beaten up, and still put up big numbers. And he deserved to be compensated for that. All right. So I understand NIL is turned this into free agency and all of that. It's not the player's fault. All right. Now, here's the thing. Because, you're hearing this stuff about Donald Trump, you're hearing this stuff about the meetings of the minds and all of that when it comes to college football. All right. I shouldn't have said that name before, asterisking that this is not a political channel. But I do want to say this about all the powers that be meeting in Washington, D.C. All right. I don't think anything's going to happen of it. I think it's stupid to not have a current athlete there. It would have made 1,000% chance or sense that Jeremiah Smith was there. All right. Sharp, best player in the sport. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. You can argue Malachi Toney. You can argue Colin Simmons. But Jeremiah Smith should be there. Trinidad Chambliss should be there. Harlem Berry, Trades Green, whoever, to speak on behalf of, current athletes. But the thing that I keep going back to is there is no benefit for the players right now to have guardrails put into place. The agents don't want it. I've spoken to one. They don't like it because they like the Wild Wild West. They do. However you feel about it, they like it because it's unlimited. It's uncapped. I have a friend that works in a personnel department in the SEC. He is so happy that there is no fall portal or spring portal, excuse me, because he doesn't have to go through all of this again. Now, it does put a lot of pressure on you to get your roster right before spring football, but you get the point, okay? Now, we do have some LSU baseball chatter coming up from someone that actually knows what he's talking about. He goes to all the games as a credentialed member of the media, so you're going to love him. But, we'll skip what did Lane tweet today because of our guest. I was going to go to it at the 15-second mark, but this kind of got into an NIL diatribe. We'll go through it. We'll go through it really quickly, okay? Is it anything? I've gotten a lot of responses on this Clemson beef going on. We'll go through it. We'll speed run. What did Lane tweet today? Thanks to our friends at Labor Therapy, labortherapy.com. They give me the go-ahead now to skip the 30-second break whenever I want to. So please go ahead and check out Labor Therapy, labortherapy.com. 5 different locations in Lafayette. All right. So we already went over this tweet with Lane, the spot the ball. This was a really good diatribe to Lou Holtz. All right. So once again, Lou Holtz, a lot of the political stuff, he's, had some crazy political things said later in his life. I had a family member who knew Coach Holtz. I had friends that played for Coach Holtz, some that coach high school ball to this day. I this is not a political thing for me. Lou Holtz was a massive part of my childhood. I don't think you guys, you youngins, understand that ESPN college football used to be more than College Game Day. And my hottest take was Lou Holtz and Mark May were just as entertaining as College Game Day in their heyday when they did the judge segment with Reese Davis. All right. You know what just different means? This is Hayes, man. I don't want to dox him because he's a it's a burner. But I know Hayes a little bit. 4 baseball titles since 2000. Or 4 baseball national championships since 2000. 8 baseball national titles since 1990. 20 College World Series appearances since 1986. 3 natties in football and baseball since 2000. 3 of the last 4 coaches in football and baseball winning natties. I'll tell you this. I like Smoke Laval more than I like Brian Kelly. Women's sports rankings. LSU gymnastics 2. Women's tennis 4. Women's basketball 6. Beach volleyball 13. Women's swimming and diving 14. And softball 17. Programming note. We will be live at the conclusion of LSU versus Oklahoma tomorrow. All right. In March, we become a women's basketball channel with the post-game shows. All right. But normal shows will always be football first. But post-games, we do all women's basketball and mix in some football in there. All right. I know Lane's an Amari guy because, of his past, but I'm not going to retweet Amari Cooper stuff. Double rainbow. Something about being married and divorced. All right, we'll skip this. Coach Daryl
on television on ESPN and stuff, and I just see the amazing what their fans are and what it is and how live it is there. And of course, I've seen the baseball team play in some tournaments before, and they've been outstanding. The crowd travels with them and travel well.
So you've never been to Tiger Stadium before for a football game?
I've never been to Tiger Stadium for a football game.
We need Daryl Strawberry. Lane Kiffin agrees. Okay. We'll get to all these tomorrow. All right. But that's pretty much what Lane Kiffin tweeted today. All right. Now it's time for our guest. I've saved all my LSU baseball takes for someone that actually knows what he's talking about. But dear God almighty, I was watching the ULLL. I don't care what the hell you call yourselves, Cajuns, rip up my dear beloved LSU Tigers. I just simply could not believe it. Jay Johnson, my heart has not been the same since watching ULL kick our asses. And I did something I shouldn't have ever done. I commented on someone else's appearance. But this UL burner, our next guest saw this. UL burner went up to our players and flipped them off. I'm not going to put that on the screen. And he had a wrist watch or whatever it was, a WAP around his wrist. It was squeezing the life out of his Pillsbury Doughboy hand. And I will never comment on anybody else's appearance. I just simply won't do it. But if you're flipping off my players, I'm going to protect those players. So to that ULL burner, this is my face. Show yours. Oh, wait. You don't want to show yours. I understand why. Because it's probably blue because you're cutting off circulation off that nub of yours. Couldn't freaking believe ULL fans. This is your Super Bowl. But anyway, let's get some nuanced baseball conversation. Mr. David Billiot Jr. joins us. So you have been in the press box for how many games this year?
Just 3. It started last weekend. The first Dartmouth game, and then the second Dartmouth game, and then Northeastern on Monday. So just 3 so far. Yes. Oh, yeah. First time ever.
Yep. Here's the thing. I hate to tell you this, David. I'm going to go above your head here. I'm calling Bill Frankus to get your credentials taken away because it's your fault, David. It is your fault that we're losing. I know this is your big break, but it's you, David. How does that make you feel?
You're not the first to tell me that. I heard it today at work. They said ever since I started doing this, it all went to hell. So, hey, man, I'm a superstitious guy. So if I go there for these 3 games this weekend and nothing changes, I might have to take a step back before SEC play. I'm a team player. I am.
The good thing is like Jay Johnson is not like that. So he would never say that to you. But what if he did walk up and say, David, the old meme, put the hand on the head, like, dude, it's nothing against you. We're kicking your ass out though. Would you acquiesce to his demands?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say whatever you need, Coach. Whatever you need.
So, but you've been following LSU baseball for a very long time. So, for my audience that only does football and a lot also does baseball, what is the problem?
That's a good question. That is the question right now. It's strange. It's, I think the root of the problem would be the offensive struggles. Not being able to just get anything going. It took one swing last night was all you had, a 2-run home run. And other than that, it was nothing. You go back to starting Friday. Actually, no, going back to Tuesday, the first game that they lost. They've only had 4 people have multiple hit games. Jake Brown and Derek Curiel have done it twice. John Pearson and Eddie Yaman, of all people, were the only other 2. Other than that, no one else has had multiple hits in a game since last Tuesday.
What would you do?
The problem is that I don't think you're at the benching point. Like it's a collective effort right now. I've never been like that guy. Like, yeah, you can point to like a Cade Arambidi and say he's, been struggling, he's been rough behind the plate, but like, you got to remember, like he started 16 games, I think last year as a freshman, and you're 14 games into this season, you got to give a guy like that time. Like he's not going to get better if he's not playing, so just across the field, it's a collective effort. I almost think that you just, as tough as it is to say as a fan, that you just have to trust. You got to trust. Yeah, you got to trust that things are going to turn around. I mean, at the end of the day, they're still 11-3. It's not as bad as it seems. I know it feels awful, but you got plenty of time. Well, I won't say plenty of time. You got time to get it right before going to Nashville for SEC play next weekend.
So should we panic right now? Because here's my thing. All right. You follow this more closely than I do. I'm always very open. I don't watch every pitch, but I watch a lot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're not playing well. You know, the Dartmouth game that they won over the weekend that I was lucky to attend, there were some lucky runs mixed in there, balls getting lost in the sun. They're not hitting the ball well. You mentioned in the multi-hit games. And we saw basically that happen after the Paul Skeens natty. The next year's team started slow, but, you know, they lost to a really good North Carolina team in the regional. And there's many cases could be made that they were the better team in that regional. Do you see it in your expert opinion that this team can have that same parabola? I don't think parabola is the right word to describe, but an upward trajectory like that team had back in 24.
I do. If you told me, we talked about this last night. If you told me that they win 17, 18 SEC games, I fully believe that. When it comes down to it, I trust Jay Johnson. I do. Now, these guys have to respond. You know, they have to listen to what he's saying, be coachable, you know, but I just trust what he's done. I think he's learned, you know, from that year itself. He talked about in the offseason or preseason, he talked about studying, you know, some of the most historic franchises, the Celtics, the Patriots, you know, some of these guys and why they struggle the years after championships. You know, it's like the guy, he like nothing goes, you know, past him. He just is, he's excellent at everything he does. So I trust him. They're talented. I mean, and we can't pretend like the first 8 games of the season didn't happen. That's part of it too. Like it hasn't been bad since the very beginning. You know, They go to Jacksonville and beat 3 very, you know, good Power 4 teams by a lot of runs. So I think it's as bad as it looks. Like it's going to turn around. I thought it would turn around last night after the, you know, near comeback, you know, that the bench guys had on Monday. It didn't happen. You went and lost to a good ULL team. You know, you wrapped that, you summed them up pretty well in right before I came on. But it's a good team, and you got to give them credit. You know, they played well. But this weekend's big. I mean, it's massive. But I don't think it's going to get that bad. I do think that it starts to trend upwards like soon.
Yeah, Currio had a nice bounce back. I'm worried about my guy Monster. I know he's fielding great. I know you mentioned the multi stuff. How do you feel about him right now?
Man, I'm a type of guy. I don't like generally like talking like we'll talk about things that aren't going right and a bad game or something, but I struggle really harping on guys that are just going through it. It's just my personal way, but like you can't look past what's going on with him right now. I've had multiple people bring up to me going back to last year, but especially this year, even before they lost some games, that he's jogging, out of ground ball, not hustle. Last night, I think he hit into a double play and he was watching the ball off the bat, as he's going, he's not busting it. And that matters. Like, in the same game that he did that, like, I think this was the game on Sunday or maybe Monday. I can't remember. They all running together at this point, but you see Derek Curriell hit a ground ball just like Milam has, and I mean, just full speed, 110%. And the guy boots it and makes an error. You get on base, like you put pressure on them. So it's just that sort of stuff is concerning, and I'm surprised, honestly, that we're seeing him get off to the slow start that he did last year as well. Because he was down like around 240 for some of the season last year until he turns up, and that's. It was low. I mean, he turned like postseason Milam is a thing. It's a very real thing. I'm very surprised. To be honest, I did not expect that it was going to start like this again this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's my favorite LSU baseball player of all time.
He's awesome.
And and that's tough. Like Brad Cressy was like my number one. And then Monster Milam had the hair. I'm short. He's short. He loves the doggos. I love dogs too. So he's my favorite thing, my favorite by far. But I've been concerned, and like you said though, I'm optimistic. Zach says you're optimistic, even though I'll say this. I think Zach, right?
Yeah.
Um, he was. I'll never have Zach on here because he talked about me being a Liverpool fan. All right.
Uh-oh.
And you don't come after my Reds, man. I've been to and I saved every little extra one of my PHL dollars. I don't make a gazillion dollars doing this. And I saved it just to go to Anfield. And anytime anyone talks about my Reds, this is not the thing. LSU, it's fine. There's a lot of LSU haters that watch me, but it's rare I got a message or a little tweet response. It was just a photo I took with Preston Guy, and he's like, of course he'd be a Liverpool fan. What does that mean? What does that mean? LSU and Liverpool have so many different similarities, right? But shout out, good to have you in here, Zach. But David, you're the real GOAT. I want you to know that. I want you to clip this and let them know that for the end of eternity. For me, I do see light at the end of the tunnel. Everyone loves Zach York and because he's massive, the opposite of Monster Mile. I mean, he can hit dingers. Yeah. Jake Brown's still playing really well. So I am optimistic as well. The big thing that Jay Johnson brought up was scheduling. And he has said, I think my team is tired. He's not one for excuses or anything. So the way he's saying it is right. He's like, hey, it's on me for the scheduling. What do you think about what he has to say about that?
I always say that it's not an excuse, but it's a reason. And what I mean by that is it's absolutely affecting them, and you can say the baseball is baseball. You got to be able to play through it. You play a lot of games late in the season when you get to postseason, starting with the SEC tournament. And that's true. It is true. But I'd be lying if I said that I don't think that had something to do with it. Maybe that's part of the low energy that we're seeing. Maybe it's not a lack of care and effort, like some want to make it out to be. That could be part of it. They just be, dead tired. I mean, Jay told us Monday after the Northeastern game that they had the game Wednesday, and because they've had so many games, in a short span, that they had to take either Tuesday or Thursday off. He was mandated to do it. Like he had to do it.
Okay.
Because of the amount of days, the amount of time that they're putting in, like NCAA rules, like told him he had to, or they have to in that situation. So it is a reason, and especially when, they're not a young team, but he said this last year too. They're not a young team, but they are a new team. There is a lot of turnover. You do have some key returners. Your whole outfield's back, your shortstop's back, but there's a lot of new people that are in there. And as you're trying to gel together, and like I said, it's not an excuse, but it absolutely is a reason. And I'll be curious to get through this weekend. And then next week's the first week where it's the traditional Tuesday night one midweek, and then a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. And I'd be curious to see how, they transition. Hopefully they get some rest. I mean, even 2 days off without a game action in a row next Wednesday and Thursday before going to Nashville, could be, very important.
Sacramento State, I love the fact they did what they did in football. The $18 million to join a conference or join a better conference. Then get the Creighton Blue Jays next Tuesday. And the Vanderbilt Commodores, who have actually been like the biggest shock for those that don't know in the when it comes to the SEC, they stink. The Fighting Tim Corbins are sucking it up right now. And actually, I'm not a Tim Corbin hater. I can't hate on him too much. But I still think that this team, my main goal every year is to be a top 16 seed and then get to Omaha, right? Obviously, everyone wants to be top 8, but I want at least one regional in Baton Rouge. Jay Johnson has said he's going to be more involved with the hitting. So now that he's stepping in, I feel the bats are going to get hot again. All right. Could you see this team being a top 16 team when it's all said and done?
I'd be more surprised if they weren't still at this point.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I'd be more surprised if they weren't, because I mean, and
Are
that's
you? But to be honest, are you being a little? I'm an LSU fan here, or do you truly
no.
still believe that?
I truly do still believe that, and a big part of that is you have probably the best 3-man rotation in the country, or one of the top 5 at the very least, and that matters, and the offense is going to have to meet those guys in the middle, because you're not going to get a 7 2/3, with 10 strikeouts shutout from Cooper Moore every Saturday. Like, that's not going to happen. It's not realistic. Okay. You're not going to get 7 1/3 from William Schmidt, where he strikes out 9, doesn't walk 1 every Sunday. But there's nobody else in the country that has a William Schmidt on Sunday. And there's not many people, if anybody, that has like a Cooper Moore on a Saturday. And Casey Evans is continuing to improve. You got to continue to just be patient and not expect him to be going 7, 8 innings. When this is the first time he's been a full-time starter, he's going to get better and better. Jake told us, after Friday night, he said, well, that might've been Sunday. He said, go do some homework. You may have seen John Eads put it out there. He said, go do some homework. Compare Casey Evans' second and third start of the year to Cade Anderson's last year. It's almost identical. So he's going to keep getting better. And when you have 3 guys like that, I mean, you saw what a 1-2 punch that you had last year did. I mean, you have the advantage, on Friday and Saturday in almost every series. And now you add in William Schmidt, who finally looks to be, like the guy that we expected. He may have finally arrived. Like that puts you in the driver's seat for every single weekend series, even in the SEC.
Turn me up, William. I like it. The best LSU baseball team of all time is 2023. True or false?
True.
Oh, I thought you were going to get nostalgic on me. The best LSU baseball player of all time, factoring in career. I think most would say Paul Skeens. He's the most talented player to ever step on a diamond. But when you factor in careers, Dylan Cruz, is that true or false?
That's true. That's my number one. I think he's the greatest.
I
know it seems like recency bias. He's just, I mean, retire the number, get to this 5-year mark, put the name and the number up in the, by the press box, in the concourse up there. It needs to happen. I mean, to stand above, it was 3 years of consistency with Dylan Cruz. He didn't slump. I mean, 75 games on base in a row, that's ridiculous, especially in modern day college baseball where there's talent everywhere. Back, not to say there wasn't in the 90s or in the 2000s, but the SEC nowadays is not what it used to be. I mean, everybody's good.
But what if Ronnie Rance or someone like that was watching this, and he might think Dylan Cruz is to go too. But what if there was someone that has a couple more years on you, I would say, hey, David, you youngin', do you know who Annie Furtis is? Do you know who Todd Walker is? What would you say to them? They might be thinking that you're disrespecting the past, the people that laid the bricks for Dylan Cruz to get here. What would you say to them?
I will admit I was young then. I mean, I was born in 88, so I wasn't watching as like I am now back then. So I would hear it out. I mean, I would. There's probably 5 different guys that you could say and have an argument for, and that speaks to the history of LSU baseball. That you even have that many potential guys. I mean, you could throw Alex Bregman in there as well.
That's to say, Bregman. Yeah.
It's loaded. Like I said, it's just me, like a 3-year consistency thing. But if you laid that out for me, I would listen to it, and it would be hard to argue. Like they've just all been that good. There's been that many stars.
One guy that I don't think gets enough love. I mean, there's so many LSU baseball players that don't get enough love. There's so many, right? But the guy who actually exceeded expectations at LSU, and then even more difficultly exceeded expectations in the bigs, is DJ LeMahieu. He just does not get enough love. And I say this because I wasn't close with DJ. I do know someone in his inner circle pretty well. It's nuts. It is nuts that, like, whenever these conversations happen, no one brings up the Texas double that won us game 1 in the series final.
Yep.
And I'm biased because this was the team I was closest to. I got to go to Omaha the full 2 weeks there. But DJ LeMahieu, I know this is just totally random, and he doesn't care at all because
No.
he's like just a low key guy. But LeMahieu doesn't get enough love, David. He just doesn't.
You're right. You're absolutely right. He's like the length of his career too. I think he's my age. I think he's like 37.
Yeah, he's older.
Like that.
Yeah.
He's around that. And he's still, he didn't retire, right? Is he still with the Yankees? I know he
you know, it's funny. I say all that.
Year,
I don't even remember. I don't know.
No, but you're absolutely correct. He to go and do what he did. And it's always cool to see the guys that weren't the best guy or most notable guy on their team at LSU go and blow up in the pros. Like Jake Fraley is a good example of that. You know, he was maybe like third or fourth, you know, a team at the time, or, you know, as far as mentioned and all. And then he goes and you know, he's having a solid, good career as well. I love when that happens. That's really cool. I could even see, even though he kind of blew up at the end of the year, like I think that's what's going to happen with Ethan Fry. I mean, you see, he just hits his first spring training home run yesterday.
That's right.
First of many. Like he's, man, I was a big fan of Ethan Fry too. I think he's gonna be stellar.
Like I don't think like there's some, because you know when people think of that team, you think that was Manieri's team, obviously. So is only Natty. You think Chad Jones is probably the most iconic thing from that team. But that LeMahieu double was just in freaking insane. That was the closest I ever got
in the ninth inning. You're right.
The ninth freaking inning. And,
you're right.
And
I was there too.
Series, okay, so you're at that game too. So
yeah.
That series was so big because it was Augie Garrido and his World Series count, and then even though he wasn't coaching, Skip Bertman, right? And they were similar. And God, that series was so great. Just two excellent programs, all-time great coaches going at it. And it kind of sucks because as an LSU fan, and this is the first time I've discussed this, all right, Manieri's fallen off, right? And I'll be honest, David, it hurts seeing this shit right now. And I hate cursing on midweek stuff, right? It drives me nuts watching this happen. But what did all LSU fans say? They said the same thing, the same exact thing, when Notre Dame fans told us everyone who Brian Kelly was. Every LSU fan is trying to tell South Carolina fans what, David? What are they trying to tell?
It's not as good of a hire as you think it is. You temper your expectations. I mean, they were thinking they were back to the 2010, 2011 South Carolina Gamecocks where they won back-to-back College World Series. They thought they were back there, and it's crazy. They fired a good coach. They ran a good coach out of town, Mark Kingston. Like that's a good ball coach. And yeah, it's sad, Carter. It's tough to watch. It was so cool seeing Paul and Skip sitting in the stands, together, watching Jay do his thing. Yes. In 2022 and 2023, it's sad to watch. It really is. He's hurting his legacy right now, and a legacy that was already kind of dipping by the end of his tenure, we could say. Like, I mean, it was time for him to go. It ended the way it should have ended, where they allowed him to go out with, him retiring, but we all know what happened.
Yes. The standard was not the standard. And to see this happen and to say, well, we warned you, we warned you. It, like, everyone made the Les Miles comparisons. It's the exact same thing, but Paul wasn't an evil person.
Right.
It's so sad. And I wanted to publicly say that with someone else that actually really knows baseball like you. Because Paul, the year that I got to go to Omaha was the year that he actually brought home the title, and he is the nicest guy in a social setting, right? He was talking to everybody at the zoo, kissing babies, all that stuff. But damn it, to see this happen, to see him just twist and turn and all of that, it sucks. It hurts me. David, you're a great guest. You're an awesome LSU podcaster. I am happy, Bill Frankitz, if for some reason you're watching this right now, do not pull his credential, even though we'll see what happens versus Sacramento State.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
So
I'm
you
not gonna
are
lie.
going. You are going.
Yes, I'll be there all weekend.
David. Hey, it was your dream, dude. It was your dream. You worked your way up the podcasting blogosphere ladder. I cheer for you, independent media members. And you go there, and we are playing like if the Sandlot cast actually came back and played now. And boy, oh boy, oh boy. But no, they're going to come back. Sacramento State, they're not going to be ready for them. All right, let's take a few questions. I'll follow. I believe I follow La Cobra 225, including pro career. Alex Bregman should be mentioned. Yeah, I think if you do all of it together, but obviously if you include pro career, Skeens is going to go past. Oh, Zach's a Man U fan. Oh my goodness. Are you a soccer guy, David?
I'm not. That's all over my head.
Oh, really?
I'll try every now and then when the World Cup or something comes around, but even that's hard for me, unfortunately.
AP, one of our many members. Good to see you. I love me some AP.
AP is a good one.
Texas is more of a baseball school than a football school. Shout out Roger Clemens. Funny thing. I'll say this publicly about Manchester United. All right. I do have a soft spot in my heart for them. I always say this. I don't like Man City. All right. Do not like Man City. But Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson, that era was crazy. You had Ryan Giggs, and you had a chest hair shaped in a T. All right. He scored a goal, went coast to coast, took his shirt off, and he had literally no chest hair here, David. It was just T.
That's awesome.
And then they had a guy by the name of Paul Scholes. He was redheaded. All right. And I knew this from playing soccer my whole life. If there was a redheaded midfielder, watch out. They're going to rip your face off if they're out there. They had Rio Ferdinand. Rio was a beast. But they had a young man by the name of Wayne Rooney. All right. Who might be the ugliest human ever walked. You know Wayne Rooney?
I do know that name, yes.
Okay, yes, England. He is the ugliest human being on the planet Earth. But damn it, Wayne Rooney in his prime. There's nothing like prime Wayne Rooney. All right. I won't go into the story now, but I owe a lot to Manchester United. They were really nice to me. My one interaction with them when I was doing soccer. So I can't hate Man United, but Man City, Zach, you saved yourself, man. Cannot stand. Outside of Guardiola, cannot stand Man City. Cannot. Okay. But David, you are doing really good stuff. All right. Let me put your Twitter.com back up. David Billiot Jr. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did. Good. You did. I'm impressed.
So it is Billiot. It's not Billiot.
Nope. Billiot.
Billiot.
Yep.
There you go. You and the little one right there.
That's after the 2023. That's champagne I'm holding in my left hand.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Check out the Go Deep Dive. LSU Baseball, man. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, Carter. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Check him out, David Billiot, if you want actually good LSU baseball coverage. My LSU baseball coverage, I'm just too much of a fan. I get too much into it. I'm like, hit the ball. I will say, when it comes to play-by-play, baseball is the best. My favorite thing to do play-by-play for. Okay? But my goal, all right, when it comes to play-by-play is to one day call a game with Ben McDonald. Holy crap. Now, Lynn Rollins is 12 times better than I'll ever be. I have a lot of photos with Lynn. He greeted me in the press box the one time I got to call an LSU baseball game 2 years ago. Lynn is 10 times better than I'll ever be. But Lynn, if you are ever out and you need me to step in, I am ready. Ask the Nick, and they said, hey, can you be here? It's a 5-hour drive for me to get to Baton Rouge. All right. It was noon, and the game first pitch at 6. I literally packed my toiletries, drove right there. No prep, no nothing. Couldn't name one player on the Nichols team. I just knew there was one player who dated a friend of mine's current wife or something like that. That was the only thing I knew about that team. Went there, called the game, went great. Calling a game in Alec Box Stadium is so good. That press box, it's magical. The hot dogs in that press box are top tier. I should have asked David about that. Okay. But, dude, I simply cannot get too overheated when the team loses these games versus weaker competition. It's just not like other sports. Baseball, you just can't go out there and kick the other team's ass. That is the genius of the sport. That is the beauty of the sport. All right. Basketball, you could do that pretty easily, especially in the women's game. Football, you could do that pretty easily. But baseball, it's not like that. It's just not like it. So my only concern is it's been like this for a while now. And it also doesn't look as good as it did in the 2024 season where we were struggling early in the year. I thought the 2024 early season struggles were kind of, and that was a real hangover after a natty. Like everyone was saying, it best LSU team of all time, hangover. And I understand you can make the same excuse in national championship hangover, but this team had so much hype, and for us to be playing as badly as we've been playing is concerning. It just is. All right. Jesse says good stuff. Thank you, Pegasus. Just, but not I can't say anything about Guardiola, man. You'll never hear me say a bad word about Guardiola, who takes a lot of heat for changing the way soccer is played. As a slow midfielder myself, I love the way Guardiola plays. Is it a little unexciting? Sure, right? It's kind of like the three-point revolution, which is ironic considering Guardiola has consulted with some NBA teams, most notably the Boston Celtics. Okay? Julie, thank you for the super chat. She wants to talk some football. Let's get to it. All right. So I want to bring up something that happened with the Clemson fans. All right. And it's kind of funny because, our trash talk as a fan base has just gotten so into the Clemson or the Ole Miss aspect of everything. Okay. So this is where it started. All right. And I started it. I take full blame for this. I'm not big on Twitter, though. La Cobra 225 is I love the whole cartoon avatar and everything. All right, so Davo Amigo, I started this, by the way, innocently tweeted out, this is the greatest college football wide receiver trio of all time. I don't know how this team didn't bring a national championship to Clemson. All right, this is the wildest argument that keeps being made every single year. That how did so-and-so not actually win the national championship in college football when they had so-and-so position group or so-and-so player? Well, that is the oldest, most least ball-knowingly remark you could make. Because half of the natties being won at the time was by Nick Saban. It's hard to win national championships. They were all won by one guy. All right? Sure, Clemson ended up winning natties, but it took a while. Clemson needed arguably the best defensive tackle duo of all time before they started winning natties. All right, and that was actually the 2018 team. They had won them before, but you get my point. But all I said was that not only Was that not the best wide receiver trio of all time? It wasn't even the best wide receiver trio of Tigers who wore the jersey numbers of 216. Okay, so for reference, to the far left, that is Sammy Watkins. In the middle is Martavis Bryant, and to the far right, that's DeAndre Hopkins. All right. Now, it's funny, Sammy Watkins was a good pro. He wasn't as good of a pro as number one Martavis Bryant, who is absolutely insane. And DeAndre Hopkins is a Hall of Famer. All right. He's pretty damn good. But even though Terrace Marshall wasn't great in the NFL, Terrace Marshall was so unfreaking believably good in college. He was even more productive with Miles Brennan as his quarterback, and Miles was a good quarterback. But you get the point. All right. This is the best trio of wide receivers in the history of college football. It is these three. All right. It is better than the trio that is behind my head right now. All right. Which, it's close. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and Kyron Lacey. And obviously, this is a trio, Jaden Daniels. You get the point. All right. And there's other great trios of wide receivers that have played college football. There's quite a few at Ohio State you could point to. But this right here is the best trio of all time. Production-wise, they are the best. All right. So, look, and that was a middle finger. I wasn't supposed to show that. Here's the truth. Terrace Marshall was more productive than Martavis Bryant. Team 6 had as many touchdowns in one season as Martavis Bryant had in his career. And this happens a lot with LSU players, all right? Just because you far underperformed in the pros, it has nothing to do with your NFL or your LSU legacy. Nothing, all right? There was a viral montage put together by a college football highlight account of Jamarcus Russell touchdown passes. It was Jamarcus Russell versus Mississippi State. And it was truly ridiculous stuff. When that happens, we can just celebrate Jamarcus Russell at LSU. Now, other people could say, well, he sucked with the Raiders. He's done some questionable things. All of that is true. No one is denying those things. But Jamarcus Russell at LSU was really freaking good. He was really freaking good. The first quarterback at LSU with back-to-back 10-win seasons. He was insanely clutch. All right? We can do the what-if game all we want. All right, the same thing is true with Terrace Marshall. He's not been good in the NFL. We all thought he was going to be good in the NFL. He hasn't been good in the NFL. Okay? He just hasn't. And that's okay. That's okay. And the same thing holds true for whatever's going to happen with this group of NFL LSU players. All right? It is very uncertain if any of these players that are going into the NFL right now are going to be great. All right? There are only a few that I would truly bet plays in the NFL for a long time. That is Delane, and that is Halsey. All right? Halsey got a little unlucky that this is a really good safety class, but that's not here nor there. Dear Lord, though, it doesn't make me not like Xavier Thomas anymore if he doesn't have a good NFL career. All right? So, it's funny. I've gotten messages from Clemson fans. I have a little bit of a Clemson following from when I used to do radio in the Greenville, Spartanburg region. Holy hell, dude. And I'm not here to say that Clemson's not a great football program. It's just whatever wide receiver trio you put up against Terrace Marshall, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, they're probably going to lose. They're probably going to lose. It's just how it is. Let's go to Sibley, biggest super chat of the evening. What is the probability that football with great recruitment could disappoint Tiger fans like baseball has thus far? With all the talent like baseball, is it possible that Kiffin's Tigers are like Jay Johnson's Tigers? This is going to be really hard for me to have any type of fade on LSU going into next season. All right. It's going to be really hard. Even though there is so much volatility with this roster, with so many new guys coming in, it is going to be hard for Lane to just totally fall on his face in year one. All right. I do think most of you want at least 9-3 next year, and that's about how I see it. All right. And it's funny that you look at this team and you can truly talk yourself into a lot of these teams on the schedule also taking massive, massive, massive steps forward. Kentucky, massive step forward this offseason. Auburn, massive step forward this offseason. All right. But even though they're making a step forward, does that necessarily mean they're good? There's a difference, right? Of course, we would prefer to play Auburn with Hugh Freeze. And of course, we would prefer to play Kentucky with Mark Stoops. Actually, I wouldn't, because Mark Stoops has kind of had Lane Kiffin's number, leading 10-0, but choking that game away. And then obviously the year before, costing them the college football playoff. But, they wouldn't have been a good team if Mark Stoops hung around. But this schedule sets up really nicely for LSU in that their road games are later in the year. Now, why is it that the road games being later in the year, why is that better for LSU? Well, take a look at these schedules. Tennessee has a chance to just be bad. With their quarterback room being what it is, they are losing 2 first-round corners. They do have a new defensive coordinator, and I'm normally pro first-year new DC. Jim Knowles is coming in. They did get Indiana's strength coach, which is a big positive for them. But Tennessee could really stink next year with their quarterback room being the way that it is. I'm not one to fade Josh Heupel. He's just too good of a coach. But Tennessee will be probably outside my top 5 going into next year. Actually, they will be. And they're probably on that fringe 8 or 9 range when it comes to an SEC power rankings. And I know they didn't have McCoy last year, but you are losing Hood, who is really good. I don't know. I don't know about the Vols next year. And then Arkansas is the worst team in the SEC. So to your point, Sibley, yeah, there's a lot of optimism with a lot of the programs that we are playing next year, including ourselves. There's at least 3 first-year head coaches that are, on the schedule. All right. Lots of young coaches. I just don't think LSU is going to disappoint next year. Now, are there big concerns? Yes. You can't have certain aspects of this team be total net negatives. You just simply can't have that. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, last year, there were too many net negatives on this team in terms of we would have been better off finding a random group of 5 right tackle to step in and play instead of what we had at right tackle last year. All right. We just cannot have that. And it's nothing against Weston Davis. It's nothing against Paul Mabenga, who's moved on, or whoever. It really was that bad. And the problem with that is that we knew this. All right. And I say I say that subjectively. There was some optimism that Weston Davis was turning the corner right before the season began, but he really struggled last spring. All right. Hopefully he gets his year under his belt. Hopefully he takes a step forward with new coaching tutelage. And hopefully Eric Walford works some serious magic. But if right tackle is what it was last year, you're just not doing better than 9-3. It is so hard to get over someone with the PFF grades and the liabilities that he had in both the run and the pass last year, even though he did end the season on a higher note when it comes to his overall pass protection. He's plenty good of an athlete. But, I am concerned about that, considering it was what it was last year. All right. AP, you're high on them. You were texting me. You're really high on them. Okay. Let's go to LA Mom, who super chatted a little bit earlier. They're Ole Miss is good. They're going to be good. All right. I wish they weren't, but they're going to be good. And the problem with this, LA Mom, is that I don't think it really matters if Ole Miss is good or not for us. I really don't think so. Because I could see a world where Ole Miss literally just plays their entire season engulfed by this game versus LSU. They find a way to beat us, and then they tank the rest of the season, kind of like we did after we beat Clemson early in the year. All right. And obviously, we didn't totally tank. We ended up having a somewhat reasonable record, but you get the point. All right. So, yeah, it is a concern, but you simply just can't return a quarterback like Trinidad Chambliss and a running back like Kawan Lacey and just be awful. All right. Even with you losing the two true brains of the operations in Weiss and Lane. And by the way, you also lost Sawyer. You also lost McDonald. You also lost all these other assistants. And obviously, Lane's right-hand man is Kevin Smith. You also lost him. Lacey's running back coach. All right, now you do get Frank. But, you know, the thing that's going to be interesting to finish up on Sibley's very generous super chat. Y'all, I want to be patient with any one team, but you notice the difference, and I was going to save this for Sunday night's live stream, but I'll go ahead and share it now. Throughout Brian Kelly's tenure, he kept preaching patience, patience, patience. You just simply cannot sell patience anymore in football. I know that goes against the antithesis of what programs used to be, which was building depth. But y'all, I know we went on a long diatribe about NIL, and I shared the good of what NIL would have done for a lot of guys in yesteryear. But outside of NIL, outside of the transfer portal, outside of conference realignment, outside of all of these things, what no one talks about anymore is that I can cut, and we'll just call it what it is, I can cut 105 players and bring in 105 new ones at an unlimited clip. If I wanted to cut all 105 guys and then bring in a new group, 105 new people in, I could do it. I could do it. That is well within the rules. So patience is not a virtue anymore in college football. So I'm not saying, hey, we need to go out there and win a natty. But we have put our foot on the gas in year one, spent $1 gajillion here in year one. It's okay for you to go into this, knowing the way that the sport is now, to have the expectations that now this is a year-to-year sport. Is developing still important and recruiting out of high school still important? Yes. All right. It's just that is so advantageous to the schools that do recruit at a top 5 clip every year. And those two schools that do that now is Ohio State and Georgia. And they will continue to do that. The other one was Alabama. They were every year in the top 5. All right, so the transfer portal is not important to those, as important to those schools as they are to ours. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Signetti at the top is like the absolute most famous example of that. Are there some guys that could truly build culture and get people to buy in and bet and punch above their weights? Yeah. Like Illinois is a good example of that. I'm a big Brett Bielema guy. I didn't know Brett well. I interviewed him a few times, knew a few people close to him when I was doing radio in Arkansas. And Brett is really good between the headsets and actually coaching and developing and building and winning with what he had to work with. But even then, you got to portal in so many guys. You really, really, really do. Let's go to Ronnie, one of our many members. Appreciate the members. Appreciate all our patrons as well. Got a lot of good feedback on the TJ Daugherty breakdown. You want to get Ole Miss fans going. Get them talking about TJ Daugherty. Whew. All right. Next few minutes, we'll answer as many as we possibly can. Once again, we will be live at the conclusion of LSU Oklahoma tomorrow. Here's the thing about LSU Oklahoma. And I wasn't going to do too much women's basketball because tomorrow is going to be all women's basketball. Unless something big happens in football. All right. If we take care of business, we will have a rematch versus South Carolina. All right. And the thing about that, and I want to get this out there before we play the game, and I say what I would say after that game if we did lose to them. I'm not sure if winning that game is the absolute best thing, because it would be such a big thing that we finally made that hurdle. But then we would have to play another game the next day, 3 games in 3 days. That's tough. And then there was a benefit of losing because you hurry up and then you're getting ready for the NCAA women's tournament. Now, there is a little bit of a gap. There's more rest in women's before the conference in the NCAA tournament. But it's still really hard. I mean, it's still really, really, really hard. And, I remember when POA went down in the SEC tournament, and you're like, damn, like, sure, it's nice to win the SEC. It's nice to get an extra banner or accolade or whatever. But, especially now that we have a natty, it really doesn't mean anything, Jay Lee dropped by the house today and is excited about upcoming football season. Love me some Jared Lee, man. A great dorm mate. Well, he wasn't my roommate, but he was a dorm mate. We lived in the same complex. And yes, he still gets asked all the time about what. That has to really suck. If your whole career you're asked about what over and over and over again. They don't ask about, hey, thank you for saving our asses versus Tennessee in 2010. They don't ask about, hey, thanks for winning the game for us versus Florida on the road the following week. All they do is say, that's not here nor there. All right, last thing. The thing I like about college football is that it is a little bit easier to have better relationships with the players because they are here for so short amount of time, right? Number one, it gets you in the mode of, hey, players are coming in and out all the time, especially now in the portal era. All right. So I always say, hey, don't become too attached to any one player. Okay. Now that's happened to me because I interview some of these kids and they end up transferring. All right. Like Lance Hurd, of course. I've not talked to Lance since the day of the interview. Now, do some of his family and friends still watch PHL? I would think so. Because they told me when I did the interview, hey, we like your stuff. And that's cool. But you never want to get too attached. The problem with that in the NFL is, well, players can play for as long as they want. And there's two different cases right now in the NFC South where you have these players that are synonymous with their franchises that are currently in weird contract places, okay? So there's one that a lot of you don't like, Mike Evans, Texas A&M Aggie, and with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay? And then you have Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan, New Orleans Saints. Every time I've spoken to Cam, he has not big-timed me. We're the same age, roughly. We both played defensive end in high school, and that's where the similarities in. He is a tall, very affable, dashing, unbelievable ambassador for the state of Louisiana and the New Orleans Saints. And we don't know what's going to happen. The Schefter report happened, but I want to say, and I mostly keep this LSU, don't do too much Saint stuff, but we push that off to the side for the Will Clapp retirement. Will Clapp does get a job with the Saints as a coach. I'm going to follow Cam Jordan wherever he goes. Even if the Panthers were to sign him, I'm still going to be a fan of his, okay? But I don't know what's going to happen. It's tough, though. It's tough when you see these guys play for the Saints as long as he has. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough for me to get too mad about that. All right, coming up next, we'll wrap it up. We're going to get a Laborde spot in there. It's PHL Live, baby. Boom. Are you missing that sweet swing? If pain is holding your golf game back, you must check out the full simulator at the Lafayette location of Laborde Therapy Center. Yes, Chase and his team built this simulator to go along with a full set of programs catered to your needs. Yes, this entire team at Laborde Therapy worked hard to fix that back, your elbow, shoulders, wrists, knees, toes, it doesn't matter. At their Lafayette location, 337-981-4053. Call today. But what if you don't golf? And what if you don't live in Lafayette? No problem. They fix anything therapy related. Book today, LabordeTherapy.com, with locations in Carencro, Youngsville, Morgan City, and Crowley. LabordeTherapy.com. LABORDE therapy.com. Let's go. All right, let's take a few more. I could make the case that Lane is top 3 in terms of pressure in the Southeastern Conference. I agree. He's probably number 1. I mean, DeBoer is probably number 1, if we're being honest. DeBoer and Beamer are probably on a different tier. Okay. So there you go. Sibley's high on LSU this year. I love when Clemson fans are right. Or feel like they're right. God, dude, I'm body bagging this Clemson fan so bad. I don't like getting into the I blame Preston Guy for this, because Preston was like destroying me for not being in the Twitter top 20 or whatever. And I was like, dude, all those people in the top 20 are good. I'm not a Twitter guy. I don't post stuff for engagement. Okay. So Clemson Addict says, yeah, and then after he and JJ and Chase left, he didn't have slow-ass linebackers covering him, and his production went down, and he sucked ass as a pro. God, dude. Like, how stupid are these people, dude? It is so easy to Google this. How good Terrace Marshall was in 2020. This sounds stupid, but I don't regret what I'm about to say. Terrace Marshall was outproducing Devonta Smith in the early stages of 2020. Devonta Smith won the Heisman. Terrace Marshall was on an all-time heater. In a COVID season, Miles Brennan goes down. Nothing you can do about that. Okay? Not going to say that Terrace Marshall was better than Devonta Smith because that's not true, and it never was true. But I will say that he was outproducing him early. And Devonta got a little lucky that Jalen Waddle got hurt. I think a lot of you know that story. But, you know, it is crazy how people misremember Terrace Marshall and how freaking good he was. And he was a dude. Now, if he was just a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson merchant, then he wouldn't have produced with Miles Brennan and what was left of that team. So there you go. Big thanks to all our supers. Sibley coming in hot, as well as LA Mom. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Special thanks to David Billiot and our new intro. You got to go back and watch the intro. Tonight, we are doing tacos. Let's go.